You're 250,000 miles from home. Your spacecraft is smaller than your living room. There are 4 of you inside it. Nowhere to stand up, nowhere to go, and if something breaks, the nearest help is 3 days away, if it can come at all. Then the moon slides between you and Earth. No radio, no data, no voice. Nothing to tell you anyone is still out there. For 40 minutes, Earth is gone. So what do? On April 1st, 2026, 4 people left Earth. Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, Jeremy Hansen. They were not going to land. Artemis II was a loop. Out to the moon, around the back of it, and home. No braking burn, no descent, no footprints. The whole point was simpler and stranger than a landing. Find out whether the ship keeps 4 humans alive that far out. Their path had a name: free return trajectory. You aim the spacecraft so precisely on the way out that the moon's own gravity throws it back at Earth. No further engine burn required. If everything failed, every thruster, every computer, physics would still carry them home. It is the same geometry that saved Apollo 13. On flight day 5, they reached the moon. The blackout was not an emergency. Everyone knew it was coming. It was on the schedule. Printed, rehearsed, timed to the minute. That does not make it comfortable. At 6:44 in the evening, Eastern Time, Orion crossed the edge of the moon's shadow. Not the shadow of sunlight, the shadow of radio. Just before it did, Victor Glover said one line to Mission Control: "We will see you on the other side." Then Houston's screens went flat. Not a warning light. Not a failure, just the absence of everything. Telemetry stopped. Voice stopped. The room full of flight controllers whose entire job is watching 4 people suddenly had nothing to watch. Flight controllers describe this hour as the strangest part of any lunar mission. Every console still runs. Every screen is still on. They just stop updating. The last numbers sit there, frozen, accurate to a moment that is already gone. And there is no way to refresh them. No procedure to run. No call to make. You do the only thing available. You look at the clock and you wait for it. Radio travels in straight lines. That's the whole explanation. We are used to signals that bend and bounce, around buildings, off the ionosphere, through walls. The frequencies spacecraft use don't do that. They need line of sight. A clear straight path from the antenna on the ship to the dish on the ground. The moon is a rock 2,000 miles across. When it moves into that path, it doesn't weaken the signal. It ends it. There is no workaround. Not in 1968, not in 2026. You can build a better antenna, a bigger receiver, a smarter code. None of it matters because the problem isn't the equipment. The problem is that there is a moon in the way, which means every crew that has ever flown around the far side has done it alone. Every single one. Here's the part that surprises people. They worked. The 40 minutes of silence sat inside a lunar observation period that ran nearly 7 hours. The crew had a schedule, and the schedule did not pause because the radio did. They photographed the far side. Not the tourist view, the working view. Craters near the South Pole, shadowed regions, terrain that future missions will have to land on. Robots have mapped this ground for decades. No human eye had seen it directly since 1972. And it does not look like the moon you know. The face we see from Earth is roughly a third dark plains. Old lava flows, flat and smooth, the patches that make up the man in the moon. The far side has almost none of that, close to 1%. What it has instead is craters, layered over more craters, with nothing smooth left to interrupt them. The reason appears to be the crust. It is measurably thicker on the far side, thick enough that molten rock beneath it mostly never reached the surface. 2 halves of the same world, and one of them never got resurfaced. At 7:02, they passed closest to the surface, about 4,000 miles up, close enough that the moon stopped being a disk in a window and became a landscape with edges and depth and a horizon that curved away underneath them. And at 7:05, 3 minutes later, something happened that nobody on Earth could confirm. They became the farthest humans in history, 252,760 miles from home. The old record belonged to Apollo 13. Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes, 1970, a number that stood for 56 years and was set by accident by a crew fighting to survive. Artemis II broke it on purpose. And it happened in the dark, with the radio off, witnessed by 4 people and nobody else. Now the other side of it. For those 40 minutes, the crew was the entire support structure for the mission. Not the primary one, the only one. On any normal flight day, a problem on board is a problem shared. Hundreds of engineers watch the same data the crew watches. Somebody in Houston often sees a fault before the astronauts feel it. That is the real architecture of spaceflight. Not the rocket, the room full of people. Behind the moon, that room does not exist. A pressure drop, a thruster misfire, a medical emergency, any of it. And the answer has to come from inside the capsule, from 4 people with no second opinion and no way to ask for one. They train for this. There are procedures, checklists, onboard computers with contingency logic already loaded. But training for isolation and being isolated are different experiences, and every astronaut who has done it says so. Nothing went wrong. That is worth saying plainly, because the story is not that they survived a crisis. The story is that for 40 minutes, a crisis would have been theirs alone. Christmas Eve, 1968, Apollo 8. 3 men, 10 laps around the moon, and 1 engine burn that had to work. The burn was scheduled during the blackout. Think about what that means. The maneuver that would either send them home or leave them circling the moon forever had to happen where nobody could see it. Mission Control couldn't help, could not confirm, could not even know. They could only wait for the ship to come out the other side, or not. Jim Lovell's voice was the first thing they heard when it did. He told them there was a Santa Claus. That was the moment humanity learned what the far side does to you. It removes the ground, not the surface underneath. The ground beneath the whole enterprise, the assumption that someone is always listening. 58 years later, 4 people flew into the same silence. Same physics. Same rock. Same 40 minutes of nobody knowing. At 7:21 in the evening, the signal returned. Not gradually. Radio doesn't fade back in. The geometry either blocks it or it doesn't. 1 second, nothing. The next second, 4 voices. The moment has a name that astronauts use, and it isn't a technical one. Earthrise. The moon's horizon drops away and the planet comes up over the edge of it, small and blue and completely unlike anything a photograph prepares you for. That is also the instant the antenna reacquires. The view and the connection arrive together. You see, Earth and Earth hears you in the same second. 4 days later, on April 10th, Orion hit the atmosphere at 25,000 miles an hour. The heat shield reached roughly 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Superheated gas wrapped the capsule and cut communications again. 16 more minutes of silence, the second blackout of the mission, this one caused by the ship's own speed. Then parachutes. Then the Pacific, off San Diego, at 8:07 in the evening. Artemis II did not land on anything. It has already been called a lap, a rehearsal, a warm-up for the mission that counts. That undersells it. For 54 years, no human had gone past low Earth orbit. Every astronaut alive had flown in a place where Earth is right there. Big in the window, 40 minutes away, always in contact. Artemis II went somewhere that has been empty of people since 1972 and proved the ship holds. The 40 minutes are the clearest measure of the distance. Not the mileage, the silence. Because the number, 252,760 miles, is abstract. Nobody can feel that. But everyone understands what it means to call for help and have nothing answer. Artemis III is meant to land. When it does, the crew will pass behind the moon again, and the radio will cut out again, and 4 or more people will be alone in the same way. They will know exactly how it feels. 4 people already told them.